our Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Director work session for February 22nd, 2021 at 5:19 p.m. And just a reminder, we are here for our budget committee interviews. And we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance for this meeting, and then we will come back and discuss a couple things before we get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So before we get started, you all should have gotten copies of the questions for tonight and the rest of your materials. And so in the past, and I'm assuming we will do the same, we will kind of round robin those questions amongst us. So I can snag the first one. And then Michael, why don't you do the second? Eric, why don't you do the third? And Jen, we will have you do the fourth. And then I'll circle around on the fifth one, which really doesn't take too much effort. Also, just a reminder, we want to keep everything as consistent as we can for all applicants the same. So if there are additional questions we feel are important, we would need to ask everyone the same, but we try to stick to the 5 questions that are on this list. And then a reminder also that we will be discussing and then taking nominations at our board meeting this evening and going through that process. I'm assuming it will look very similar to the one we just did for our board position, as far as if you have someone you'd like to nominate, we would each vote and try to make that be your first choice. If it's not, then vote appropriately until we can get through the group.
Kim, do you, assuming there's time before we go into our public meeting, our regular meeting, will there be discussion? If we have time, will there be discussion about the candidates here in the work session, or are we saving that all for?
I think we can do some of the discussion here, and then whatever additional discussion we have at the meeting prior to our nomination piece. Yes.
Okay. And Chair Butzner, I just wanted to check, are we streaming right now?
I believe so. Did I hear it was? Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
It's an unlisted stream, and so no one emailed me to view the meeting yet, but it is streaming in case someone is asking for it.
Great, thanks.
All right, so I believe our first applicant is Bill Draper. Is that correct, Chris? Correct me if I'm wrong with any of these as we go.
That's correct. Would you like him in the room now?
Unless any of the other board members have any questions, process-wise or anything?
Okay, hitting admit.
There you go, thank you. Hi, Bill, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, now you can.
All right.
I'm trying to get video here for you.
Sure, no worries.
Okay. Well, I've hit start video, which I'm usually not having a problem with. I apologize.
Chris or Andrew, can you try to see if you can get Bill's camera on?
Yeah, I mean, I've asked for it to be turned on, which I think he's doing, but it's just not coming on. I don't know why.
usual.
Bill, do you want to try to log off and log back in?
Up to, give me just a couple minutes then.
Okay, thanks.
Do you think we have a little bit of time built in, don't we? Yeah.
We do. It does seem every time we do these, either we or a candidate or two has some sort of technical difficulty. And it's really generally not related to anyone doing anything wrong,
Right.
just the fact that the systems are all overloaded and weird things are happening.
So I think we have Bill by audio again, but no video.
No video. Let me see. I'm trying to, I have not had this issue before, so I'm troubleshooting something for the first time.
Just so you know, last time we had a board meeting, there were several of us that also had audio and video issues
Okay.
that we normally don't have. So we totally understand how that goes sometimes.
I'm a former IT person, so trying to, I'm afraid I might have lost now unless I rebooted my system, but that would take quite a while to bring back up. I apologize.
That's all right. I think just for the sake of you not being able to figure it out and moving us forward, we'll just go ahead and go with audio and we'll envision.
I think I've met a few of you on calls. Melissa, hello. Mr. Larry.
Hi there, Bill.
Eric. Yeah. Yeah. If you'd like me to begin, I can do so. Again, my name is Bill Draper. I apologize you don't have a chance to see me look into my eyes, but telling you a little bit about myself. I graduated from South Albany High School, so it's important to know I've been part of the Greater Albany Public School System, and graduated and left Albany to see what was out there in the world, joining the Air Force for over 13 and a half years. I traveled the world with my wife, but we chose to come back to Albany. So after 13 and a half years, I exited the Air Force and missed the military, the Air Force life, but unfortunately, bringing our kids back to Albany was what we had planned, even when we left here. Returned in 1997, worked as a network administrator for Valley Insurance, and then immediately took an IT director position for the Albany Democrat-Herald. Since my return, I've spent quite a bit of time returning to my roots, which is on the board of directors for the Albany Boys and Girls Club in 2003. In 2000, well, I got these dates right, I've got them written down here. So former past president of the Albany Area Chamber of Commerce as well. So I've been the president. I'm now in my second term, current chair-elect at the board of directors for the Albany Area Chamber of Commerce. I also am involved with the finance committee for the Boys and Girls Club, operating a little over $3 million budget. With the Albany Area Chamber, I think many of you are aware of what the Chamber has done and how nationally recognized we are as a very strong program, a very big advocate for our community, and the school is no different with pipeline programs, other things that are directly impacted. So I'm on the periphery of the school district, not directly related to many of your programs. I was in 2017 a member of a volunteer 4-year bond. So I walked door to door and canvassed and called. And so that's, Eric was there as well. We were part of, trying to build something. I didn't get very many no's from people who thought how important it was to donate or provide any increase in cost per thousand for the resident. It didn't matter. They knew how important that money would be towards capital improvements because, and I work that way as well. If we make Albany, having worked on the South Albany Area Planning Committee, we need to expand and make sure schools, make sure that we are relevant, make sure Albany is some place where people want to raise their family. Unfortunately, we don't want to think of ourselves as a veteran community, but we seem to be going that direction more and more each year with decline in some of our business community. Again, I work for ATI, almost 4 years now as a ops manager. I work in continuous improvement. I'm certified lean, not lean, but certified continuous improvement manager. And then I'm also change management certified as a practitioner. So I use those to really focus on process. I think that's why I want to be on this committee, is because not only do I want to become more involved with the school in that element, but these are challenging times. And I think I have the bandwidth now to look at involving myself with the process of the budget itself. I don't have a lot of experience in public. My experience really, again, is dealing with legislation, with my government affairs for the chamber. So I'm looking at House bills, Senate bills that are affecting education, but not directly related to any one specific area of education. But I hope that my experience as a director of operations, as a manager, and especially process improvement, in that I'm looking at it without emotion. And this is we're in uncharted territory with the income tax situation we're facing over the next 5 years, possibly. We haven't seen the bathtub effect fully come back, but we don't have as much revenue coming our direction in the near future. So what does that mean? That means that we have to, without emotion, take a look at what do we get from that? I think it kind of leans into the district performance. And as I looked at the performance, I couldn't make any direct relationships to improve it because I don't know the strategy. I don't know what a teacher does every day that's driving towards that strategy. I know that they're trying to, with their own education, with their own goals and objectives, what are they driving? Do they have a cost per student that is high and getting certain results? So I have to see what those results are and what is being driven from the top down to see where I believe the performance can actually go. So that means, is there a strategy that the teachers understand? Are they directly aligned? Are the programs and results that we're getting a direct result of not understanding the strategy that is being driven? And so I look at things from process, and I'm hoping that experience can help the committee, not only good times, but also what happens if we have to make some changes. So can I look at that objectively? That's where my experience is. So I looked at performance, and we're very much average. I was an average student, graduating with, I think, around a 3.25. I'm not sure, but I didn't apply myself until I realized what my potential was outside of high school. And that's when I realized the benefits of going to college, the benefits of achieving a little bit more. And so is average good? I don't know yet. I have to take a look at that strategy and see where we're driving. We may be falling behind in certain areas that I just can't see from a chart. What's the strength of Albany or the gaps? I think it's the community to support. I'm on the Boys and Girls. I get to see the disadvantaged. I get to see even kids with an advantage. But right now, I'm not so sure with COVID that we truly understand the impact of what's going on at home. I think we saw a lot of challenges with every status in the community trying to learn. So I don't know what coming out of that is going to look like over the next couple of years. But I think our strength is in our community, the nonprofits here support the pipeline, the continued education. There is just such a generous community, and I think the size makes sense. 20 schools. I think we have a chance to be able to see every aspect of that. I think it's sized correctly. I'm comfortable with knowing that size, the number of teachers, the number of students. I kind of did a quick look at that to make sure it was something I'm very interested in see if we can move the dial. But that's who I am and what I do. Again, working with people collaboratively, moving process. Budget committees there to recommend what's necessary to run a school district, and we're presenting that to the school board. So that's a huge responsibility, something I feel I'm ready for. A lot of unknowns, I say that, right? At the same time, I'm going to continue on learning more and more about the community, and I think that from that perspective, I'm a good person to at least get to see, get to know, and align myself with the rest of you. So the meetings are fine. I am the current president of the Mid-Valley Basketball Officials Association. That's ending at the end of this year, so I feel like there's a great slot for the next couple of years to get to know how the education process from a budgeting standpoint, how it works. I think it's going to give me some great insight to see where the strengths of the GAPS program really are, and the weaknesses, right? And help work through some difficult but rewarding experiences in the near future. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
You ran through that so nicely for all of us.
Oh,
It was great. So thank you for that. We were expecting to maybe have to ask you the questions, but you just took it and ran with it, which we appreciate. I don't know that we have any additional questions. I'm looking at the members of the board here, and I'm not seeing anything. So I do want to, on behalf of the board, thank you for even submitting your application and being willing to offer your volunteerism for this effort. We greatly appreciate it and are happy that you were able to join us tonight. And we will be finishing up our interviews in the work session tonight, and then actually nominating and voting on our new budget committee member at our board meeting this evening. So if you are able to join by remote access, we'll be doing that. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all that you do. It's a thankless job, especially in the COVID. We don't get to see all of you out and about in the community. And so thank you for your time.
And thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right. Back to our group. And then our second person is due to begin at what time, Chris? I was just looking, sorry. I need to get back to you.
And that person is actually in the waiting room and available. So
anytime.
But the time that they had was 5:45 for their interview.
Okay. So were there any any comments from board members regarding the first interview at this point, or do we want to just dive into the next and then discuss at the end? I'm seeing heads nodding to dive in. All right. So Chris, if Chris is ready, that would be great.
Chris Reese, can you hear and see us okay?
Oh, I finally just saw a black screen. I didn't see anything for a minute there.
I do too. I see his name at the bottom, and it looks like he's still muted on his side, but I
I can hear and see you both great. I was also trying to get on my phone so that you could see me. Can I try to do that and then I'll just mute one of the two? Is that okay or no?
You're total. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. If you don't have a camera, that's fine too. We've certainly interviewed people without looking at them, but
Okay, all right.
Best for you is totally fine.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll eventually have it in our budget here.
Okay, just to be clear, that can't be the school district budget, but we're glad you're here, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, so Chris, thank you for joining us. I'm not sure, did you have a list of the questions with you as well?
Yes, ma'am, sure do.
Okay. You are either welcome to go through those on your own, or we would be happy to ask them of you. But if you've got them in front of you, we may just let you kind of navigate through them on your own, if that works.
No problem.
Okay.
First off, Melissa, good to see you upright and doing fine. That makes me happy. So, my goodness, what a scary deal. So my name is Chris Reese. I'm a husband of 25 and a half years, a father of an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 10-year-old. We're in the West Albany district. I'm a retired colonel of 23 years, active duty, former deputy of Lynn County Sheriff's Office, tried to be young again at 46. It was awesome, but then the CEO gig came around. And it's the perfect fit for me because I'm a servant by nature and I love being around children and our elderly population and those with special needs. It's like a perfect heaven for me here at the Y. I come to work and enjoy my day every day and table any stressors I have in my life at my car when I leave, and I check in at the Y and I'm pumped up to be here every day. I have 3 restaurants, Southpaws 1 and 2. One's here in Albany, one's in Eugene. I have a hamburger place here in Albany called Shortstops, Major League Hamburgers, Shakes and Fries. I'm a Chamber of Commerce board member of a few years. I'm on the Salvation Army board. I'm on the Community Development Commission as a commissioner with the city. I'm on the 5-year Strategic Gaps Committee, just recently finished here a few months ago. And I was on the 5-year strategic committee for Parks and Rec. Strategic thinking is probably my greatest area of expertise. It's what I was all about as a full bird retired colonel in the Army. That was my last position in the military. And I love problem solving and creating milestone charts to effectively meet, every single goal we could possibly imagine, but then also create decision points along the way to, if we're not making those goals, what can we do to adapt and overcome? So I enjoy being part of those solution sets and not be on the sidelines watching others struggle. I like to be part of it and get in the grind with others. So I love challenging environments. That's really my big thing, my big ticket. If I'm good at anything, it's problem solving. So the Y is, I call it the problem solver's paradise here at the YMCA. So I get to do that stuff every day, all day. So that probably answers that first question. Any questions on that one that you want to fire back at me? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. So 2, I think this is probably where I'm probably the most limited. I think I'm diving into the nonprofit arena here at the YMCA. When we're talking specific impact on education, I've definitely worked in an enormous amount of public organizations, local, state, and federal, obviously massive issues across the nation and multifacets. But in the last 18 to 20 months, I've really dove into the early learning child development world. And so where I've dove in is getting preschool promise. I'm working on baby promise money. So I'm in and around folks in the educational world. Plus I've dove into gaps and being a huge supporter of both Melissa and Lisa on all facets. Like if I hear gaps, then I'm at that meeting because I want to be involved. As I've told Melissa and Lisa, I don't envy their spots. I've done several check-ins with both the ladies that are here on the call, and just is there anything I can do? So I would say I'm fairly limited in that, but where I think that I can come through for the team is back to the strategic planning. I think understanding the problem, adapting, and then learning, and then developing a plan and sticking to the plan. Not being so stringent that we can't come off the plan if we don't meet those obligations and goals. But I think that's where I can help. So I don't know that, the education background piece of that is as paramount to having to fill this position. I don't know. If it is, then, I may not be the right person for that. But I do feel that I bring the strategic planning concept to the table that would help in having a budget. And to that point, I've led 3 restaurants in the YMCA through COVID, and all of those are still prospering, doing great. I took over an environment here at the Y that was $300,000 a year deficit, on a trajectory of bankruptcy in 4 years. We made $300K last year during COVID. My 3 restaurants, although daunting and tough, we adjusted manpower, we adjusted our cost of our goods without negating the quality product that we push out. And I was able to not make as much, but definitely able to pay our bills and actually make a profit during the midst of COVID. So where thousands of other organizations were going out of business, I think a positive approach to anything in life is the key, but also mitigating all those extras that we maybe think and penny pinch a little bit. Sometimes you have to do that, and get through a tough environment. And I know that the education world is not short on penny pinching. You have to do that for sure. And oh, by the way, you have parents to contend with, and most importantly, our precious children's education, that when we do pinch, are we failing the child in their educational processes? And that it's an amazing, tough environment that you've had to endure here over the last year and a half, and being on the sideline as a parent of 3, watching my children go through this. I can't imagine how tough that might have been, but I'm not a sideline guy. So if I can fulfill a role that can help any way, shape, or form, that's the kind of person I would want to be, and jump in, be first and get after it. So on to number 3, are there any changes you'd like to see the district make? Yep, a couple of them. I want to see better advertising. I think that we're too humble in what GAPS does. This organization is an awesome organization that does so much more for families, but I don't think that we get that word out there. I can relate from the Y that we're related, we relate to a swimming gym too often, and that's not fair. The Y is significantly more. We've opened up a new preschool. We have our elderly population taken care of, not just here while they're here at the Y, but we're delivering pharmaceuticals and food through the midst of COVID. We have socially disadvantaged families coming in every 2 weeks and open up our facilities to make sure that they're eating properly. They have the right counseling, they have doctor appointments lined up, dental appointments lined up, checking in on the children during times when they're not at school, where the rates of suicide and molestation and abuse and drunkenness and all these things are at their peak. We are an organization that are in the fight from the beginning. I've worked all but 4 or 5 weekends through COVID here at the Y, providing that those doors to be open for as many people as we possibly can. And there's a lot of great partnerships around the community that are like-minded, that I think the more molding we do together, the more impact we're going to be having. I think GAPS is at the top of that food chain. All of us should be subservient to our education system, and how can we help? How can we force multiply and make sure that GAPS has all the support they need? So that's why I'm part of it, but I feel like we're too humble. I think we need to advertise what we do. I think we need to do more surveys. I think a lot of different we did some surveys during our 5-year strategic committee, but I think that we don't get through to all of the families that we need to. We use maybe just a couple sources, but if we have to go door to door, we got to find volunteers. We got to get every child's parents involved with what can you see GAPS doing better for you? And then, oh, by the way, parent, here's what you can be doing better for your child. Here's some opportunities that we can provide. Our teacher in a classroom setting of a 1 to 36 or 40 ratio, I'm sorry, you're not going to get individual attention, right? But here's some things that you can do on the side when we can and we can afford it. We'll get 2 or 3 people in the classroom, but we can't do that right now. Here's what you can do, parent. Oh, you don't have that ability? Well, this is a resource you can take that to. So I think it's a two-way street, and really 3 forms of communication. You got to say it, they got to understand it, and and you acknowledge that they understood it correctly. And I feel like we can do a lot better in that arena. I think breaking down the messages so people understand the full scope of of the problems that you're enduring. So GAPS can provide X, and I think that we can say all the good things, but we can also say, here's our roadblocks, and we're open to suggestions, right? And open that can of worms and see what suggestions, and then have that, a cell of people that we can't afford, but we're going to try to do it anyway because we do it at the Y2. Answer those questions. I think GAPS does a great job answering is what you can. Every meeting I see, Lisa and Melissa just getting after it with folks, and everyone thinks they have the only answer, but there's not one answer. There's multiple answers, and we have to treat every family and every child a little differently, case by case basis, and make the time to do that. And I think GAPS does a great job with that, but we don't advertise it. We don't say we do those things. We just take it on the chin over and over and over again. And I feel like we can always be better at communication. Obviously, some of the district improvements, also more teachers in the classroom, or reduced numbers in the classroom. So there's a better ratio. And then, for me, I'm all about milestones, charts, having little victories. And when we have those little victories, let's celebrate that. Let's enjoy those. Let's smile. Let's go, you know what? Hey, we did that. Can you give us a little bit of a break here? We got to that point. But I think if we overall strategic plan, and then as we show those victories to Albany and our surrounding communities that GAP supports, I think that there'll be more buy-in to what we're trying to accomplish, which is a thriving young boy or girl that has every advantage they can possibly give them. And it doesn't matter where you come from or what your background demographically, racially, any of those things. It's an all-inclusive, true all-inclusive environment, and that we facilitated the best education that we can do here in Albany. So I'm pretty big, like I said, pretty big fan of what we got going on, but I think we need to be a little less humble of what GAPS does. Number 4, what do you think major strength of the Greater Albany Public School System? I'll start right off the bat with leadership. I think that we have the 2 best leaders we could have in Melissa and Lisa, leading the way through, man, what a tough environment last year. So glad we have you 2 ladies on the call here at the helm. I think character is a great word for our GAPS community that I've become familiar with through the 5-year strategic committee. I just feel like you could tell in the room there's a lot of people that truly care and that they're for the right reasons, not just to be a stepping stone. I assure you, I'm not running for office or anything like that. I join all these boards because I can't walk by a Folger, a Campbell soup can in Walmart with not only picking the doggone thing up, even when I'm in a hurry, but I will put it on the shelf, find the tomato aisle, like there's where tomato goes. I'll turn it where tomato is showing. And then if doggone the other tomatoes are not right, I'll dress up about a foot square by foot, chicken noodle and a couple other ones. And then I got to go. Right. So I can't walk by something I can help with. So I start with yes, to my dismay most of the time. But for some reason, I get stuff done. I'm able to do a lot of stuff. And so I've always been that guy. My mom will say I can't pass by something I can help with. And I actually, it probably bothers Lori a lot, my wife, but she must be okay because we're 25 years later, here we are still, and 28 years together. So communication, I think, I said communication can be improved. I also think it's a strong suit. I think the emails that we get and the communication that I've seen is amazing. I think we can always improve communication. I say that at the Y too. It was first year was all about relevance. Year 2 for me, I had half a year in 19. I said relevance is our keyword, buzzword here. Communication was the word of 20, and then 21 is efficiency in the workplace, because I'm gonna have to reduce manpower to be able to afford it, because I have half of my members that are not here, not paying. So I'm having to do a significant more with less. So, I'm having to, lack of a better term, cut dead weight. If you can't handle 3 or 4 jobs, I'd rather put you on unemployment. You can at least pay your bills. And then, young kiddo, I can bring you back when I can. But right now I need just the A-team players. Otherwise we just get shut down here. So I think that communication though has been fantastic throughout this entire COVID environment by GAPS. I just think we can get more people involved. And I think that 3-way communication of other things other than just what GAPS is doing, I think I want to get that feedback from the families and force that, figure out a better way, again, back to door or something better that we can get more feedback from the parents I just think it creates good relations and more buy-in. And then a positive future. I feel like, it's really awesome with Melissa right off the get-go. We go right into the 5-year strategic, committee. We signed in on the same day, July 1st of 19. And right off the bat, you and I were doing the exact same thing. I came up with my, near-term, short-term, long-term, and strategic goals over the next 10 years. In fact, I have my tactical operations center is what I like to call it, because I teach everybody operations orders, like on the Army and at YMCA. They dig it. And so we have a 5-year strategic committee thing that we did here too at the same time. And that positive future of where you're trying to go with GAPS, I think is just phenomenal. I think it's a strength for GAPS, and I'm glad to be part of it in some capacity. And I will be regardless of this position. I'll continue to be a supporter and volunteer for everything I possibly can with GAPS. The end, I wish I had a dime for every time. Chris, do you have time for this? It's so funny. It's a question. I coach over 1,000 kids in town, have 3 restaurants, the Y guy, and, by the way, 3 athletes that are on busiest sports schedule of any parent in this town. I would love to compare calendars. And absolutely, I will have time, and I will never miss a meeting, because there's just some things that I have to miss in my family or my job or the boards that I set up that I'm participant in. And I don't know of a time I've missed, a chamber meeting or a Salvation Army meeting. I've just joined the community development committee. So no, I don't see a problem with my schedule preventing me from being at the 3 times in spring or the once in November. If it's November 21st and we throw a birthday party for me, and that's fine. If you want to do that, I'm fine with that. I like chocolate cake and it's fine. Rocky Road ice cream. So yeah, and that's the 5 questions. I don't know what else you want to throw at me.
Thank you very much. I think you answered with a lot of information for us. We appreciate that very much. And thank you for all the work you're doing around the community. There's obviously a lot of things you're involved in, and we appreciate that too. So
yeah, you bet. I thought Lisa would have came back with something witty like, you were on mute the whole time, Chris.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't think.
But it is after 5, so she's not in her witty state, right, apparently.
Right. Just repeat what you just said. We didn't hear any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on the interview. Again, I'm open to anything I can help with GAPS, and I am a big fan. I want to be part of the solution, and I just thank you for the opportunity to have me on tonight.
Well, and we thank you for joining us and putting your name in the hat very much so, especially with as busy as folks are these days. We know time is a challenge, so we appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will be finishing our interviews, and then tonight at our regular board meeting, we will be taking nominations and voting on our new budget committee members. So if you are able to watch online, we will be taking care of that this evening.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you so much for joining
Thanks, Chris.
us.
You bet. You all take care.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Before we move on, any questions or comments from anyone?
I just had a question, a technical question. Originally, did we have 5 applicants and then we were going to interview 4, but do we just have 3 now? Did I get that correct? Okay, that one had withdrew today. Okay, just trying to make sure. Thank you.
I think we actually had 5 candidates, but 2 withdrew. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So who, the 3rd candidate that we're interviewing next, who is that?
Is Ben Watts?
Okay, got it.
He's in the waiting room if we're ready for him.
Okay. All right, and I'm assuming, well, is Chris bringing him in? I'm assuming it's Ben, but I shouldn't say that because it's Benjamin on the application. Does anyone else know? Oh, there we go. Can you? Oh, he's got Ben on there, so we're gonna go with Ben instead of Benjamin. And you are on mute, Ben, so I don't know if you can take yourself off of mute, that'd be great, but we are happy to see you. And can you see and hear us all okay?
All right, I can see and hear you so far. It looks like everyone else is on mute, so great. Can you hear me okay?
We definitely can, yes,
All right.
thank you.
Wonderful.
So,
Oh, please go ahead.
yeah, I was to say thank you for joining us tonight and taking the time out and putting in an application for the position. And I know you've got a copy of the questions there with you, so we will let you lead the way through those questions.
Okay, great. So a little background about me on question number 1. So I was born in Albany, and so I have some experience as a student within the district as well, but I have 2 children who are in the district now. And I attended Lynn Benton, and after I graduated from Lynn Benton with a 2-year degree, I joined the Army, and I was in the Army for 5 years, and I got trained for language. I studied Arabic in California, and I graduated from that, and they trained me to do signals intelligence afterwards. And then when push came to shove and I got sent to somewhere where I might have needed those things, they had me do something else entirely. So I spent 2 years doing training for something I ended up not getting to do. But after the Army, my wife and I moved back here to Albany, and I got a job at Samaritan Health Services within the IT department. I started at the help desk there, but after about 1.5 years, there was a bunch of movement at the management level, and I got promoted to be the manager there for the help desk, which we renamed to the service desk. And I was a manager for Samaritan for about 8.5 years, I believe. And I had 3 different management positions during that time. This is, I don't know if you can hear that. I live right next to South Albany High School, and there's people who do cookies out in the parking lot very frequently. Anyway, so where was I? I totally lost my train of thought there. So as a manager at Samaritan, we would have to do budgeting every year. And of course, that budgeting took the form of operating budgets and capital budgeting. And for operating budgets, it's of course making sure that you have the staff that you need. And when you think you don't have the staff that you need, applying to get the new staff you think you do. And of course, coming up with the justifications for that. And then the capital budgeting process can be a lot more of a one-off type thing where you're investigating something in particular for that year that you want to go after. And that takes like preparing requests for proposals. So I've experience doing that. And of course, reviewing the responses to those. And embedded in all of that is working with a number of stakeholders for whatever you're trying to implement, and getting their input when you're starting off, and then of course getting their acceptance when you implement. And so I've gone through that process numerous times. But that leads me to the final point. I left Samaritan after a while because my family got to a financial situation where I could kind of pursue something I really had a passion about. I got to go back to college and I got to study English. And I liked 2 aspects about it. One I expected I would really like was doing a lot of writing. And one thing going into it I didn't expect I'd really like was doing close reading of other people's texts. And so doing close reading when you're reading things other people have written and trying to extract like the deep meaning of it. And I think those skills could be useful in a budget committee too. And I graduated from Oregon State University from the English department with a 3.91 GPA. And I would have graduated with summa cum laude Latin honors, but I ended up being 2 credits short for what they required. So you have to be an Oregon State University student for 90 credits. And because my time at Lynn Benton and transfer credits from the Albany, or from the Army, I had 88 credits. So I didn't learn that until I got my degree. And then they were like, no take backs. I couldn't even go back and get two more credits. It was too late. So, but I graduated shortly before all of this COVID stuff. And so my family was lucky that I got to transition. You know, we decided I'm not going to go looking for a job. I'm going to transition to being like a full-time parent. And that's been extraordinarily rewarding with the kids here all the time. Even not getting to play with their friends like they used to. We kind of transitioned that to more remote play as well. We're together a lot, and I've gotten to be, you know, involved in their lives a lot more than I was when I was working, and especially seeing how they attend school. And I see the challenges that they have, and I've gotten to work with their teachers over the last several years to develop the learning plans for them. And my wife is actually a teacher for Scioto High School. And so I've gotten to see from her perspective how things work in a remote working environment. And it just seems to me like there's, and I've attended school board meetings, or viewed them online, I should say, for that period of time as well. And there's just a huge amount of heavy lifting going on just across the board. And I feel like I want to do my part to help with that. And so that's why I saw these opportunities, and I wanted to try to be available to help them. And I am certainly committed to doing that. On for question number 2 regarding training, my experience with education. The Samaritan Health Services IT department has a lot of like dedicated departments underneath it. It also has kind of a bunch of people that do something that's really particular to them. One of those worked for me, and she was the training manager for our IT department. And so what we would do together is we would, I know this isn't like K through 12 education, but we would work together to develop training plans for our department. And also when we were doing rollouts of some sort of system for the company, we developed training plans for everyone else and how they would learn to adopt those programs. And the training could take like a one-on-one approach, or we'd do classroom setting. And some of the fun times would be figuring out who was going to do the training. And of course, even I got into that. So I got to do some of the training sessions, but we would also have to go out to our IT community and kind of recruit people to do training as well, or arrange to send folks off to training somewhere. Within that, we would have to prepare the budgets for how much we're going to spend on training that year, and of course get them approved, just like everything else. Let's see, for question number 3, something I think could be improved. Kind of going back to my experience with budgeting, one thing, and I will admit I don't know the extent to which the budgeting team operates this way or not for the district, but I think having like a goal-oriented budgeting process could be extremely helpful. And what I mean by that is when the district has like specific enumerated goals where we want the district to go in the future, and also what we want to do to maintain what we have now, that aids in the budgeting process. And I think that it helps with prioritization. You can look at what it is that will be the most helpful towards those goals. And helps, even with things that are pretty different, give a more apples to apples comparison, not necessarily on what they do, but like how they affect what you want. Let's see. I think also they aid in communication to the district families, the Albany community, but also, and I have a lot of personal experience with this, to folks that have submitted a budget proposal that gets denied. You can communicate to them why, like what it is that did get approved and why that got approved rather than their item. And I know from my perspective, that was always like helpful to know. Be like, okay, well, all right, I did all this work, but I totally understand the decision. And yeah, underneath all of those goals, you can have key performance indicators that will be able to track year over year how the things you're doing are improving the district in ways that you've enumerated you want to work on. And so I think these are the ways that could be helpful to the district. Now, again, I haven't gotten to sit in on the budget meetings, so I know that the last one had some discussion about the what was it? There was something with an Excel. I can't recall exactly, but I didn't get to see this part of it. So let's see. For question number 4, I feel like the things that I see that the district is really excelling on are the kind of tying back to what I said earlier, just at all levels. I see, there's passion for education and there's compassion for the community. And I think it's admirable, and it's kind of what motivated me to really want to be involved too. I think that this district is one that really has a drive to help students be educated, yes, but also just, successful in being humans and being healthy and not only in the workplace, but just in every aspect of life. And I think that that's, incredible. And I also think it's probably not super common amongst school districts in this country. So I think we're lucky in that respect. And of course, the school board plays a huge part in that, but all of the teachers do too, and the administration. And I think, they're very, very inspiring to me as a parent too. And of course, which leads me to question 5. I can, of course, do what's needed here, and I will be committed to do so. So I can attend the meetings that are scheduled, and I will make sure that my schedule conforms to it. And so I think I've answered all of the 5 questions. Are there any questions that maybe I didn't answer as strong as others that anybody would like some clarification on? I know I'm trying not to be verbose here.
First of all, thank you for taking us through all of those answers. I appreciate it. So do the rest of the board members. Were there any additional questions from board members at this point? I don't think so. They were very thorough, so thank you. And we appreciate and thank you very much for some of your comments you've made, but also for just jumping in and applying and putting your name in the hat for this position, because it is important for the work we do, and we know time is hard for some folks these days, and so we very much appreciate you volunteering for this possibility of this position.
Well, yes, and thank you for offering it the opportunity to apply for it. And if I were selected for it, I don't know if I get the opportunity to ask questions, so I'm just going to shoot for it. If I were selected for it, what's like the first thing that you think a candidate should try to tackle?
From my perspective, I think that for anyone coming in that maybe hasn't worked with the district or the board at this point, is just to kind of get familiar with the practices and the workings and what our current budget committee members are doing. I think it's important probably to reach out to them and get some of those questions answered and kind of the focus of the group and understand the work that we're doing. I think that would be my first tackle. Melissa or Lisa, or I see Michael's hand up too. So anyone else?
Yeah, I would suggest that the candidate meet with me and Jim Scherzinger, just to walk you through kind of what the budget ends up looking like and what the process is for a budget committee, what the budget committee member role is, and explaining that in a little more detail.
Michael, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, real quick. I just was going to add, I think Ben mentioned goals. Well, our goals are our strategic plan. So I would say just take a look at our strategic plan before you meet with Melissa and Jim.
I have gotten the chance to look at that.
That encapsulates our goals. Yeah.
And we also had Jen, who was on the budget committee. So.
Well, all of these are excellent suggestions. I would say keep doing what you're doing as far as attending or watching the board meetings, because then when we go into budget season, you're going to have background and understanding of what pressing issues are and what challenges or opportunities we have going into budgeting.
All right. Well, thank you all for those answers. I know we're time constrained, so if I am selected, I'll have many more to ask.
We will have lots of answers, I'm sure, as well.
All right. So
we very much appreciate you putting your name in for the opportunity and also for joining us tonight. So thank you very much for that.
All right, thank you very much. And
we will be announcing or going through a nomination process and announcing a candidate selection tonight at our regular board meeting. So you're welcome to, like you always have, it sounds like, been joining our meetings virtually. We would love to have you do that as well. So
I'm planning on it. So thank you. Yeah, I think I just leave the meeting now, right? All right.
Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. So we are at about 6:15. So we have a little bit of time for some discussion if we want to do that. Is there anyone that wants to start that process?
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
I think we have 3 really tremendous candidates, actually, all of them really, really strong. I just think that the district's going to be well served with whoever we select. So that's a great place to feel going into this. So I'll just share some of my thoughts on each one of them. Bill and Chris come with quite the resume. They've got a lot of background with different community partners and with budgets, and they would just either one of them would bring a lot to the table. I have no doubt that if Chris says he will be there for every single meeting, he will. But one of the things that struck me about Bill's interview was he said specifically he has the bandwidth for challenging times. So I do worry a little bit about putting even more on Chris's plate, but I know that he wouldn't even be throwing his hat in if he didn't fully intend on committing. He's definitely an enthusiastic supporter of our district, and we love enthusiastic supporters, right? Ben speaks to me. I love, maybe it's because how I came to be where I am at. He sees the he's kind of got this front row seat as both a parent and a spouse and of a teacher, and he sees the challenges of education, and he just wants to jump in there and do his part and make a difference. And I can, I personally can relate to that, and I appreciate that. And I think he's got the background that would make him effective as well as well-intentioned. I like the fact that he had the question for us about, if I get it, what should I do? And I appreciated that. I also, I think there are pros and cons to both. In Bill and Chris, we have two individuals that are very well connected in our community and very involved in lots of different ways, and that can be an asset. I have always advocated for involving people who maybe haven't yet been really involved, and I personally think Budget Committee is a great place for people who are interested in being part of the district and therefore part of the greater community. It's a great place for them to start getting involved, and I'd feel very comfortable giving Ben that opportunity.
Thank you. I want to jump on the bandwagon of feeling like we have three really, really strong candidates all the way around. And so I felt really good with all of them as well. And sometimes these are situations where you wish you had room to bring in more than just one when you have them. So there's opportunities, I think, for all of these folks to be a really positive asset for us as a board and a district. So I was pleased to see that too. Yes, Director Thompson.
Yeah, agreed. Three candidates. I just see it as meeting the bar as professionals who could, whether they bring previous knowledge or could quickly learn the basics before they jumped in. But having served for 8 years on the City of Albany's budget committee, I've learned a little bit about Oregon budget law, which I found interesting because growing up in Washington, they don't have that. The spirit of it is to force, and so the ESDs have one, the community college has one, the cities, counties have one. It forces citizens to play a part, to take a look at the budget, so it's not just the elected body going through the motions of approving a budget like they do everything else. It kind of takes, we set aside a couple days for practicality, and I just think I'm just kind of agreeing. Three great candidates. Two of them have many ways that they interact with the community and have their say. And Ben has stepped up, kind of heeded our call, because our call was to ask people to step up. And in fact, we're always talking about on the budget committee, boy, why doesn't anyone give us input? Why doesn't anyone, and so I'm just leaning towards Ben for that reason. Someone who doesn't have a say and is willing, has shown himself that he's willing to step in and he kind of embodies the spirit of Oregon's budget law.
Director Aganaga, did you have any comments and input?
Yeah, I was trying to hit my hand thing, but I don't know. Sometimes you have to log out and log back in.
It's all good.
Yeah. So I look at it as more of an HR perspective of, where's the pedigree of these three gentlemen? And it's very, very high. I believe in strong collaboration. Chris has a lot on his plate, and a ton on his plate, but he also sees a lot of what we wish we saw. He has feelers in every part of this community, from the most economically challenged to the most wealthy. And so he gets that feedback a lot. I've seen Chris, at every weekend event, every football, baseball, softball, soccer event. I really like his leadership. Sometimes you got to tell him to shh, but he's a good guy. I think collaboration would make us a lot stronger, and it would be a paradigm the budget committee doesn't have right now.
Thank you for those comments as well. Did anyone else have feedback they wanted to provide of the group? Lisa, Melissa, Jim, anyone? No? See head shaking. Okay. Russ. It's weird to say Russ again. I don't know. It's like, it's great. Glad you're joining us. I like I said, I think I had strengths in all three that I appreciated seeing, and didn't really feel like there were many concerns that I would have had for any of them. I did really appreciate some of Chris's comments, especially around our current gaps, strengths, and where we're trying to go. And I tend to agree that I think there's a lot of partnering that can be done with his knowledge. And I think he's put in a lot of effort into assisting gaps. I completely understand also the aspect of looking at a variety of participants on our budget committee and the underserved and some of those aspects. And I think Ben had a lot of great positive things that he provided, as did Bill in his comments as well. I appreciate how much, I think for me, from an overall budget representative, I was intrigued by the fact that Chris had so much, he's had so many different opportunities with different budget types and different dynamics, from personal business to a YMCA that was struggling, to the government type positions that he's held. But I think that's a positive as well. And I think that he's shown, like he mentioned, being able to get through some of the most challenging of times with budget issues. I think that could be very beneficial to us from a knowledge perspective. And so I'm trying to weigh out kind of the experience and the knowledge that we might lose by not bringing one on, but then the representation of some of those underserved and giving other people opportunities. And I'm trying to weigh between those things a little bit. So that's where I think I'm struggling, because I just think they all have great things to bring to the table for sure. So Assistant Superintendent Harlan, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to bring him on there. One of the things I was trying to think about, and I'm not sure, so your help on this would be great, in thinking about the existing budget committee. And I was trying to think about when you were talking about representation, and I appreciate that. Do we have representation on the budget committee that is fairly kind of well spread out in terms of West feeder and South feeder?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I know we've got at least two from North Albany, and Heather and Seth.
I think Kim and I are the only ones on the budget committee from South. Last time I looked.
Mm-hmm. And I ask because you all know, in our community, that is something that has been questioned before, and feeling like, all aspects get represented. And so I couldn't remember if any of our actual budget committee members who weren't board members, kind of what that swath of representation.
I think Will is Southeast Albany, isn't he? Huh?
He's not on the budget committee.
He's the position we're filling.
Oh, you know what? We got his information. That's why I was looking. Yeah, so he was South. That's right. And I think he was the only one I see.
That is a great point, Melissa.
Downtown. And I agree. I think there's something to be said for where they're coming from, where they live, but also on that same dynamic. And I think Eric might have mentioned it about someone like Chris, who, though through his work, really deals with the whole of Albany and all of the kids and all of the parents and some of them, which I think is important too, because regardless of where they live, I mean, in his sense, he's got kids he's working with that feed into all, right? And for that matter, you know, also for our, probably our Albany Options school kids as well as, you know, all of that. So he's probably really familiar with that aspect too. Yeah, but you're right. Were there other questions or comments or anything at this point? We have about a half an hour until our meeting. So if there isn't, we will go ahead and give ourselves a little time to have some dinner before we come back at 7 o'clock. All right, so thank you guys. And again, we'll open it up for any additional discussion if you feel you need it, and or just go into process of nominations. And we'll, like I said, treat it the same as we did sort of with our previous position, where if it's your first choice, go ahead and vote appropriately. And if not, vote appropriately, and we will move it through the process a second time. Okay. All right. So we will adjourn. Oh, go ahead.
And we need to exit out of this meeting and
It will be a new meeting invite for the afternoon, or for our later meeting. All right. So we will adjourn 6:32 p.m. and we will see you all back at 7.